At the top of the vehicle, on top of the first stage, is the black carbon fiber inner stage, and right above that is the Falcon 9 second stage, which has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine. Now, once the first and second stages separate at about 2.5 minutes into the mission, the MVAC engine will ignite and carry the SXM-8 satellite into an elliptical orbit around Earth. Now, at the very top of the rocket is a composite structure, which we call the payload fairing. And that's what you see right there on your screen. Today's fairing will protect the SXM-8 satellite from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we no longer need this protection, so we will jettison the fairing as the second stage to orbit. Today, the fairing halves protecting the SXM-8 satellite are taking flight for the first time, and we'll be recovering them with our recovery vessels, Go Searcher and Go Navigator. Falcon 9 has been loading propellants since T-minus 35 minutes, and we use a rocket-grade kerosene, or RP1, which stands for Rocket Propellant 1, as our fuel, and super-chilled liquid oxygen, or LOX, as our oxidizer to power Falcon 9. Currently, RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages, and LOX will continue to be topped off right until the final minutes of the countdown. If for some reason we do not launch today, we have a backup launch opportunity available tomorrow at the same time. As of now, we're still in good standing for an on-time liftoff. The latest weather forecast is 70% favorable, and weather conditions look good for the booster recovery as well. Now, with that, the vehicle, satellite, weather, and range are all good to go for Falcon 9's 12:26 a.m. liftoff from Space Launch Complex 40. If you're just tuning in, as we mentioned earlier, for today's mission, we're launching a high-powered digital audio radio satellite for Sirius XM known as SXM-8. We previously launched the SXM-7 satellite for Sirius XM last December. To learn more specific details about today's satellite, let's check out this video from the satellite's manufacturer, Maxar.
Stage 1 fuel load is complete.
We are currently T-minus 5.5 minutes from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. Now, we're currently waiting for the transporter erector, the TE, to retract. That'll happen in about a minute from now, or just under a minute from now. The TE is the white painted structure that's positioned right next to the vehicle. On your screen, it's to the left of Falcon 9. As we prepare to transition into the final stages of the countdown, the TE clamps will open, and then the transporter erector will begin to retract away from the rocket slightly. And as the Falcon 9 lifts off at T0, hydraulics will pull the TE farther away, and that clears the way for Falcon 9's liftoff. Sounds like we got a call out to start opening up those clamps. Now, the TE provides liquids, gases, electrical connections to the second stage, as well as air conditioning to the payload fairing.
Strong back retract sequence has started.
And there you can see on your screen those clamps that I mentioned earlier are opening up. Once those are fully open, then the TE can start to retract. And it looks very, very slight, but that transporter erector is now starting to recline just slightly there, as I mentioned. And that looks like it completes the strong back retract. Now at this time, the first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. And as the super chilled liquid oxygen, which is our propellant oxidizer, turns into gas as it meets the warmer, humid ambient air during loading, it forms those white clouds that you see around Falcon 9.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
And there's that call out that LOX load is complete on the first stage. Now for your awareness, second stage will complete LOX loading at T-minus 2 minutes. And at T-minus 60 seconds, Falcon 9 will be in startup. And what that means is the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers will have taken over the launch countdown. Just inside T-minus 2 seconds, we will light the Merlin M1D engines to get set for liftoff. With a few minutes left in the countdown, the SXM-8 payload continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is tracking no issues on the rocket. The surrounding ground, water, and airspace received its green for launch from the range. So, with about 2 minutes left, we're getting into the final stages of the countdown. LOX loading should be complete here in a few seconds.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And there's that call out. Now both first and second stage fully loaded with LOX. So now that LOX loading is complete, we will clear out the LOX line on the transporter erector, and you can kind of see some of that venting happening. As I mentioned, those white clouds from the LOX hitting the warmer ambient air and turning into gas. The next event coming up is Falcon 9 going into startup just around T-minus 1 minute.
Flight computers in startup.
And there's that call out. Next call out will be from the launch director.
Falcon 9, Sirius XM8, LD is go for launch.
And awesome call out. Sounds like we are go for an on-time liftoff today.
T-minus 30 seconds.
And with all systems go for launch, let's listen in to the terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes the SXM-8 satellite into orbit.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition and liftoff.
Stage 1 chamber pressures are nominal.
Vehicle's pitching downrange.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off with the SXM-8 satellite from Space Launch Complex 40. Now the next event coming up. Next event coming up here is Max Q, and that is maximum aerodynamic pressure. That's the largest structural load that the vehicle will see on ascent. So we do power down the engines just slightly in preparation. And then
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
After Max Q, we will throttle them back up.
Vehicle has reached maximum aerodynamic pressure.
And there's that call out that we just passed through max Q. So in about a couple of minutes, we will have 3 events happening within seconds of each other. That'll be main engine cutoff, or what we call MECO, stage separation, and SES-1, or second engine start 1. Now, main engine cutoff is where we shut down all 9 of those M1D engines on that first stage. And that slows the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation.
Started.
Stage separation is where the first stage separates from the second stage, and the first stage will begin to make its way back home to Earth for landing, and stage 2 will continue on its journey with the third event, SES-1. Now that's where the MVAC engine on the second stage lights up and propels the second stage along with the SXM-8 satellite to orbit. We're just under about 20 seconds away from those 3 events. Again, that is MECO, stage separation, and SES-1.
MECO. Stage separation confirmed. MVAC ignition.
And there you could see all 3 of those events, MECO and stage separation. On your left-hand screen is a view of first stage. On your right-hand screen, you could see that MVAC engine on the second stage, glowing bright red. You also got a little glimpse of the green T-TEB ignition for SES-1. Now we're coming up on fairing deploy here, just under 10 seconds away.
Vehicle's on a nominal trajectory.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there we got a nice live visual of the fairing halves deploying from second stage. As a reminder, this was the first flight for both fairing halves, and we will be attempting to recover these new fairing halves with the help of our recovery vessel's Go Navigator. As second stage head towards its targeted orbit, stage 1 will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first of those 2 burns is called the entry burn, and that's where we light up 3 of the 9 M1D engines. Now this helps to slow re-entering back into the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. And then after the entry burn will be the second and final burn, and that is the landing burn. Now this is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to touch down on our drone ship. Again, today we will be attempting to land on Just Read the Instructions. If you're just catching up with us, we had a successful launch of Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station's 40 launch pad. And now you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9's Stage 2 as it delivers the light to orbit. Stage 1 is currently cruising back to our drone ship, Just Read the Instructions, in the Atlantic Ocean. And as a reminder, today's mission is for Sirius carrying the SXM-8 satellite to its targeted orbit.
9 continues to follow a nominal trajectory.
And SXM-8 is the 12th satellite to be launched for SiriusXM's service. It transmits 73 decibel watts at peak power, which is 20 million watts of power. Now, deploying the unfurlable reflector is like opening a large umbrella in space. And a very large umbrella, it's about 9 meters or 29 feet, which is taller than the average 2-story house. Now, with the solar arrays deployed, the length of the satellite is about the same length as a 737 airplane. Now, we're coming up on entry burn on the first stage, just under 10 seconds away or so.
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there you heard the call out, and on your left-hand screen, you could see that the entry burn has begun on the first stage. The seconds or so. And again, it helps to slow the vehicle down as it's entering back into the Earth's atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn shut down.
And again, there's that call out, and you can see on your left-hand screen that the entry burn has. On your right-hand screen, stage 2 is still looking nominal. And we're just about a minute away from the landing burn on the first stage. And right before the landing burn will be second engine cutoff 1 or SECO 1. And that's where we shut down that MVAC engine that you're looking at on your screen there. A reminder, we do have 2 burns of this MVAC engine for today's mission, and that helps get
Second stage is in terminal guidance.
That helps get the SXM-8 satellite to its final orbit.
Stage 1 transonic.
Again, a couple events happening back to back here. SECO 1 coming up
Stage
here
2's flight
shortly,
termination system has safed.
followed by the landing burn.
Stage 1 landing burn startup.
Sounds like the landing burn has begun on first stage. You can see,
Expected loss of signal, Cape.
sounds like we also got a good orbit on the second stage.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
And we have touchdown of Falcon 9. Falcon 9 has
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
just landed on our drone ship. Just read the instructions. Today marks the 87th overall successful recovery of an Orbital class rocket, as well as SpaceX's 125th successful mission to date. Now, while that was all happening, we did have a successful SECO 1, and a call out for good orbit. So now that second stage is going to coast in this orbit or so. So we'll see you back here at T plus 25 minutes for the second stage relay.
Detected loss of signal, Bermuda. Acquisition of signal, Gabon.
Welcome back to the live webcast of SpaceX's SXM-8 mission. We had an on-time liftoff at 12.
Chill's underway.
We had an on-time liftoff at 12:26 a.m. Eastern Time from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Stage 1 returned back to Earth and touched down on a drone ship. Just read the instructions, and this was the third flight and landing for this specific booster. Our second stage is still looking good on a nominal trajectory after its first burn, and now it's getting ready for SES-2 in a few seconds here. SES-2 is second engine start 2, and again, as I mentioned earlier, we do have 2 burns for this second stage in order to get the SXM-8 satellite to its final orbit. And we're just about 20 seconds away from SES-2. That burn will last just about 35 seconds or so long and will be followed by SECO-2, or second engine cutoff 2.
Vac ignition.
And there you can visually see on your screen that second stage ending back up. Again, this is the second of 2 burns. It'll last just about 30 or so seconds long.
And vac cutoff.
And there we have confirmed SECO-2, or second engine cutoff 2. And we did get a good orbit. So we now have another coast phase. We have another coast phase before we can deploy the SXM-8 satellite from Falcon 9's second stage. So we'll see you back here around T minus 31 minutes. T plus 31 minutes.
No signal. HBK.
We sat there, 25th century AD. We sat there and looked at the rockets from Mars and just...
Welcome back once again to our broadcast for our SXM-8 mission. If you're just joining us, here's a quick recap of today's milestones. We had a successful liftoff from Space Launch Complex 40 at 12:26 a.m. Eastern Time. From there, we had a successful stage separation, recovered this first stage for the third time on our drone ship, just read the instructions, and have had 2 successful second stage MVAC engine startups. Now we are coming up on the deployment of SXM-8, Sirius XM's next generation satellite. Let's listen in for the call out for payload deploy coming up here in a few seconds.
Payload separation confirmed.
And there you can see on your screen the SXM-8 satellite drifting away from second stage, confirming payload deploy. What an awesome view of the satellite drifting away. With a successful separation of the SXM-8 satellite from Falcon 9's second stage, that will bring our webcast coverage to a close. To the Range and Federal Aviation Administration, thank you for supporting today's mission. And of course, to all of our viewers, thank you for supporting our mission by tuning in to today's webcast. We'll see you next time.